this game, and it helps you be more successful in life. So it's not just about winning a championship. I mean, I know that's what you all write about and what you talk about and all that. And we like winning, and we hate losing. Right, but there's more to it than that.
Including the fact that Nick Saban is now 12-0 against his former assistants, including the Bulldogs' Kirby Smart.
In overtime, we didn't finish when we had to, and Alabama did. To give them credit, but I think everybody can see that Georgia's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm very proud of this team and this university, and we're not going anywhere.
Georgia's still looking for their first title since 1980. The Raiders.
Kevin, how do you do? This is Marky. You got Randy Sanders for me here?
I do. He's actually walking to my door right now.
All right, there you go.
All right,
I got them all out of breath, huh?
NBA tonight, Lonzo Ball and the LA Lakers. They'll be back on the court to take on Sacramento. That means round 2 between Lonzo
Coach Randy Sanders.
Rookie.
How you doing?
A pleasure to make your acquaintance.
Well, I tell you what, I apologize. I'm running a little late on you. Just,
You're fine. You're fine.
There's a lot of things going on here today.
You're fine. We'll go on in about 3 seconds, okay? I'll play this. Right. And you're already live on Facebook, but it's just hellos, so you haven't said anything incriminating, so don't worry about it here.
All right.
Now it's my chance to try to get you. No. All right, here we go. Randy Sanders was regarded, it seemed like, by one and all as an impressive hire for East Tennessee State University when he was named last month to be the Bucs' new football coach. Coming from Florida State and, for that matter, Kentucky and Tennessee, where as an offensive coordinator, he called the plays for the 1998 national champions. Look at Tennessee. They hire a coordinator from Alabama. Look at Mississippi State. They hire a coordinator from Penn State. Look at Central Florida. They hire a coordinator from Missouri. ETSU hires a coordinator from Florida State. So, Randy Sanders, it's a pleasure to come and talk to you here, and have you on the show. I'm very happy to do it. But I do want to ask you this here, and there is one big change, and I want to start this off this way. You may be coming from Florida State, but your stock was a little down considering the Seminoles season last year. Seminoles were predicted to finish, or I should say, preseason ranking number 3, wind up 6-6, 7-6 with the bowl game victory. What went wrong at Florida State this year? I think that's what the nation wants to know. What can you tell us?
Well, the number one thing, obviously, is whenever you lose your starting quarterback, whenever you lose 3 of your top 4 receivers, whenever you lose a starting tailback for a while, and we lost 6 offensive linemen for the year. And whenever you have that kind of injuries, it's hard to overcome, and it doesn't matter where you're at or what they predict you to do. It's just a difficult process when you lose that many good football players, and you have to go find a way to play.
Well, we're talking to Randy Sanders, the new head coach at ETSU, so some losses there. But, your first game, and we're talking about the national title game this past year, you had to prepare against that tough Alabama defense and lost 24-7. I want to ask you, you've been doing this for a long time. Where did that defense rank among the defenses that you have had to prepare against?
Well, they were obviously a very talented defensive football team. They have good football players. They do a good job with their scheme, what Coach Saban did and what Coach Pruitt did with them. They understood what they were trying to accomplish on defense. I think, honestly, we have played against more talented defensive football teams, but not many teams have played together as well as what they did. And they played with great confidence. They really understood their scheme. They believed in their scheme, and they played it very well. And, the other thing that Alabama did to us, I can't remember any stats or anything else, but I know it seemed like every time we got the ball, we had a long ways to go to try to score. They did a great job playing team football and playing field position and making you go a long way. And I remember it was one of those nights we had a punt blocked, we had a field goal blocked, and we fumbled a kickoff return. And anytime you have mistakes like that in the kicking game, it made it a whole lot easier for them to make some plays with their offense and score their points.
Well, I can see that, and not the most talented, but you said the most confidence in the scheme, it was worked real well. Of course, you're going to be coaching against Jeremy Pruitt again this upcoming football season, as he's the new coach at Tennessee, and for the first time in history, ETSU's going to play Tennessee on the gridiron. Is there anything you can take from that experience? I mean, just strategic memories or anything from that game this past season to this next one? Is there anything you can possibly take?
Well, obviously we played against Jeremy this year, but I played against Jeremy Pruitt for a whole year in practice every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he was at Florida State 2013 when I was there, and I know Jeremy very well, understand the scheme very well. I'm sure Jeremy knows me very well and understands what we were trying to do at that time. You know, I won't go into it with the same offensive football team we had at Florida State at that time, and he won't have the same defense he had at Alabama or at Florida State at that time. So I think we'll each have an understanding of what we would like to do and what we would like to accomplish, but it doesn't matter what he knows or what I know. It's a matter of what the players know and what they can execute. So that's going to be the challenge. It's obviously it's a coaching matchup a little bit, but it you know, football's still about players. It's not about the coaches. Coaches give them a chance to win, but the players have to go out there and make the plays.
Sure, I'm probably not going to beat Bobby Fischer in chess, but if you give me a whole board, a book to read, and him one king and a pawn, I might just have a chance. I get that. Hey, Randy Sanders, he's the new coach at ETSU. Got to ask you, how close are you to naming your assistant coaching staff?
We're pretty close to naming a majority of it. It's not completely done, and it probably won't be done for a few weeks, and that's kind of by design. I don't want to get into too many details, but I like the staff that we're going to be putting together. I like number one, I think they're good football coaches. I think they're good men. I think they're going to be good representatives of ETSU, and I think they're going to do a good job on the road recruiting. And obviously, the recruiting is just as important as the coaching, because like we talked about, it's not a matter of what we as coaches know or what we understand. It's what the players know and what they can do. It's our job to teach them, but we got to do a good job of going out, number one, evaluating talent, and then being able to bring that talent in and getting guys that can do what we would like for them to do.
Now, Randy Sanders, I know you brought in just yesterday a pretty big recruit in Logan Marchie, transferring in from Temple, where he had been a starting quarterback for 7 games. Now, he had been recruited when Marcus Satterfield, I believe, was the offensive coordinator at Temple, had a couple of years at Tennessee Tech as their head coach, and of course, he's an ETSU grad. A lot of speculation. Satterfield is going to be your offensive coordinator. Is he?
Well, we'll all have the answers to all those questions here soon. It's obviously I've known Marcus a long time, and Marcus is a very good friend and someone that I respect a lot, not only as a person but as a football coach. And as I mentioned, I'm excited about the staff that I think we're putting together. Looking forward to getting everyone here, getting everyone busy working for ETSU, and we got a first order of business. We got to get out there and get on the road and finish this recruiting season.
I understand that, but can you at least tell us, will there be anybody, barring unforeseen circumstances, any holdovers from the Torbush staff?
I think there's a good chance there'll be a few holdovers, and again, we'll have a release on all that here pretty soon.
Oh.
And I wish I could get into more detail with you, and I know that you got a lot of people out there probably wanting to know. But as soon as we get some things finalized, then we'll be getting the word out from here.
And I understand. We're talking to Randy Sanders. You mentioned recruiting and how important that is. Has the early signing period helped or hurt your recruiting efforts, especially at a smaller school? Do you think that there's benefit to it, or has it hurt a school like ETSU to have that early signing period?
Well, I think that's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to it right now. You know, this is the first year of it. I think sometimes once you get past a few months down the road and you get past the early signing period, you're able to look back and say whether it was a positive or a negative. I know with where it fell Thursday and me actually getting the job and having a press conference on Sunday, it made for a very busy few days there. I do know that. I wish we'd had another week or two before the signing, just with the timing of the job. But I think it can be, if it's done correctly, I think it can be a benefit for us. One of the things that some of the bigger 1A programs, I guess, are known for is going through and poaching commitments from places like ETSU or UT Chattanooga or a Furman or a Wofford, if they didn't get who they wanted at the end. And I think possibly the early signing period can get some guys locked up for us that wouldn't be taken from us at the end like has happened in the past.
All right, that's an interesting. What about this? Is it now that the big boys, for lack of a better term, may have signed some of their, 5-star guys, that you can now try to get somebody who might not have known exactly where he would have been in the mix at a major program as a starter, and you can now say, hey, you know what? You come here, you can start. But if you go to that bigger school, well, they just signed a 5-star or a 4-star guy, and you'd be going uphill to try to win a starting battle with him. Is that an advantage that the early signing period can give to an FCS team?
Well, I think it's possible. I also think, I'm very familiar with East Tennessee, and I'm sure there's a whole lot of players in the state of Tennessee that had aspirations of going to the University of Tennessee, for example.
Sure.
When you get to the early signing period and they haven't gotten an offer and they didn't have scholarship papers sent to their house, maybe they understand that the University of Tennessee is not necessarily in their future. So maybe it that will help ETSU or help Tennessee Tech or Tennessee State or ETSU, whoever it may be, UTC, being able to go out and recruit some of those guys because they understand that that the University of Tennessee Knoxville is not going to happen for them. And again, this is the first year, so we're all learning. It's all a process. Ask me again here in a few months. I'll have a much better answer for you. And if you give me a couple of years of experience with it, then I think we'll all have a better understanding.
You mentioned that you're a native East Tennessean. I believe you're the first native East Tennessean to be a head football coach at ETSU since Don Riley. You grew up in Morristown. When you were a kid, did you go to ETSU games?
Honestly, usually on Saturdays I was fishing or dove hunting or something like that after a week of school. I remember coming up here and playing in the, I don't remember exactly what the bowl game was called, but it was kind of the runner-up bowl for the old Intermountain Athletic Conference, and I think it was the Big 8 or something like that. After my sophomore year, I remember coming up and playing in the Mini-Dome against Tennessee High.
Okay.
And, it was a game that left an impression. I think that's when I first really started noticing ETSU and the potential of the place.
What is that potential? Because you've got to turn around a losing culture. Since returning football, the program is 11-22. If you want to go back, and I know there are 12 seasons they didn't play, but all the way back to 1971, there have only been 3 seasons where the program has won 7 or more games. That's 33 out of 36 seasons where mediocre or worse football. What have you done to change that culture?
Well, I don't know that I've done a whole lot yet at this point. We're trying to put the staff together. I'm anxious to get our team back on campus. I've been head coach since I don't know exactly what day it was, December 17th, I think it was. And I've yet to be able to sit down and visit with the entire football team at one time because they've been on Christmas break. So I'm anxious to get them back, have our first team meeting, start instituting, what we want our identity to be, what we want our brand to be. I think, Johnson City sits where we're not far from, obviously, Asheville, Charlotte. We're not very far from Atlanta. We're not that far from Cincinnati. We're fairly centrally located to a lot of good football players. I think we've got a wonderful city. I think we've got a wonderful university. We've got support from Scott Carter, AED. We got support from Dr. Nolan as president. And I know before you can be successful anywhere, and trying to lay the foundation for what we can so far, but still got a lot of work to do. And but I'm ready to get going. I'm ready to get the guys here and get started.
What is your recruiting philosophy in terms of local recruits? I'm sure that you'll go to all the various high schools and, glad hand the coaches and so on and so forth. But there's always been this talk at, I guess every school likes to have local players, especially at ETSU. Still, you present someone who has recruited in Florida and a wide geographical area. What is your recruiting philosophy gonna be at ETSU? Are you gonna look to be more of a out of Tennessee recruiting area, or do you want to first focus on the Tri-Cities and then sort of trickle down?
Well, I want to, number one, get players that are good enough to compete for championships. If there's players that allow us to compete for a championship locally, that's where we're going to go first, and we're going to start our search as close to campus as we can, and we'll keep going until we find what we feel like we have to have or what we need to be able to compete for a championship in the Southern Conference. If there's 20 of those players within a 50-mile radius, then that's awesome. That'd be perfect. I love having local guys because I think there's an advantage to if a guy misses class, being able to call mom or dad, and mom or dad be able to drive over here and see him right away. There's some advantage to that. But if we need to go to Georgia, or if we need to go to Ohio, or if we need to go to Florida, or wherever the case may be, we're going to continue our search till we feel like we find the players we need. Again, I would love for them all to be local, but we got to have players good enough to win a championship. And if you're going to win championships, you got to have championship caliber players. And I think Alabama and Georgia both proved that last night. If you're going to compete for a championship, you got to have those caliber players.
Randy Sanders, I can remember when there was a player from Germany on ETSU's football team about 15 years ago. Hey, you've changed the philosophy here on JUCOs, though, have you not? You're okay with bringing in junior college players, because I know that Carl Torbush before hasn't, and your first recruiting class of the 4 in the early signing period had 2 JUCO guys. Are there any benefits that you can see by having more experienced junior college football players on your team next year?
Well, as long as you're trying to bring in some of the right young men, I think junior college guys can often provide immediate help. They're a little more mature. They've been out of high school a few years, and you don't recruit junior college guys to not play. Now that doesn't guarantee that they're going to be on the field. But if you're recruiting a junior college guys because obviously you feel like you have an immediate need at a position, and oftentimes the junior college guys will be able to plug and play. Kind of, you can put them out there, and because they are 20 years old or 21 years old, and got a couple more years of just maturing as a person, physically and emotionally. A lot of times they're a little more ready to play. Two of the junior college guys that you mentioned, we signed. We're currently being recruited. When I came in for my press conference, they were on official visits.
Oh.
So I had a chance to sit down and visit with them. So, Coach Torbush may not have signed many junior college players in the past, but obviously that was part of the plan because they were on campus visiting when I got here for the press conference.
Randy Sanders, new ETSU football coach. I know you have a 1:30 commitment, but I do have 2 more questions that I do want to ask. And what with Marchie coming in from Temple, one of the recruits in the early signing period being a quarterback from out of state, and also having a senior, Austin Herrick, who I think a lot of people would have said is one of the strengths of the team. Let me ask you, is the quarterback position open for 2018? Or are you right now saying it's Herrick's to lose?
Well, I won't say it's open. I think what Austin's been able to do has been impressive. I think he's a good football player. I think he's an outstanding young man from all my experiences with him to this point, from everything I've heard. But I'm wanting to open up every position for competition. It doesn't matter if you don't have a quote-unquote incumbent starter, or if you got somebody that's been at that position for 2 or 3 years. Let's get the best players on the field. And I tell guys all the time, choosing who's going to start is kind of like choosing between my daughters. I love both of them. I want both of them to be successful. It hurts when one of them loses the job, but at the same time, if we're going to win games, we got to get the best players possible. We got to get the best players we can get. I expect the guys to go out there on the practice field, compete as hard as they can compete. I expect them to compete in the weight room. I expect them to compete when we're doing our off-season conditioning programs, running, whatever it may be. But once we hit game day, I expect everybody to be doing everything they can for ETSU. It's not about me at that point. It's about us. And the more competition we have, the better. It makes everyone better if you have to, be at your best each day. So we're going to try to create that at every position we possibly can. And that's why recruiting is so important. And, again, you go back to last night's game, Alabama, Georgia, what they had, they obviously have a lot of competition at each position because those guys were very competitive. We were talking about Florida State earlier in 2013. We had a lot of good players, but we had great competition in practice. We had guys that love playing the game and love competing, and that's one of the things that made us successful. You take all the guys that we talked about that we had with injuries, there wasn't near as much competition on the offensive practice field this year just because we didn't have the bodies out there to compete each day. And I want competition at every position. Sounds like my kicker's pretty good. I like him. I like kickers that make field goals.
J.J. German, yes.
Yeah.
I expect somebody else to come out there and try to beat him out. So if we can keep improving, when one player leaves, if you're replacing him with a better player, then your program is getting better each day.
I know I said too, but you mentioned kickers. Do you believe in giving specialist scholarships?
Sure. I mean, kickers that kick it through the uprights and punters that kick it a long ways and long snappers that never have bad snaps, they're just as important as anyone else. The kicking game, the special teams, it's truly almost a third of the game. And you have to play those situations just as hard and just as well as everything else.
I know that was something Lou Holtz never liked to do, is give scholarships to specialists. Final question I got. Joe Avento revealed that you are a classic rock fan. I'm theorizing that after those days of fishing on Saturday, you might have been, like me, watching the Headbangers Ball back in the day. So let me ask you this. Your favorite classic rock band is?
Well, I was always a Southern rock guy.
Okay.
So, you got to go to the, I guess, the Leonard Skinners, the 38 Specials, Allman Brothers, Bad Company, all that group. That was kind of the guys that I cut my teeth on and listened to mostly in high school.
I wasn't aware Bad Company was from the South. I seem to remember them being from a different part of the world. But anyway, hey, it's Randy Sanders, and he's the new football coach, and he comes and brings in a really impressive resume as a coordinator. Now he's calling the shots for the ETSU Buccaneers and trying to lead them to prominence not enjoyed in in more than 20 years. I want to thank you for joining us. Hope it's not the last time. Tri-City Sports Now, we're going to come back after this. Where might Butch Jones wind up?
Continuous pain.
All right, thank you.